Okay, well, welcome everybody, and I'd like to call the combined special meeting of the trustees of the Tulsa Airport Improvement Trust, regular meeting of the members of the Tulsa Airport Authority to order. Today is Thursday, July 14th. The first item is to approve the minutes of the June 9th meeting. Have a motion.
Sorry, move approval. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We got reports.
All right, I'll kick things off. The picture for our board meeting cover slide is a group of our employees that went over to the American Airlines maintenance base and toured. Employee engagement continues to be a priority for our team, our leadership team. And by providing opportunities for employees to meet with our tenants and see what their operations are like, we feel it kind of builds the why behind the work that we do. In the past 30 days, besides that tour, our employees have participated in the Tulsa Pride Parade. We've had 3 lunch and learns for them on recycling, conflict resolution, and mental health. And we continue to identify ways to engage employees so that they feel tied in with our mission. And we think that that's important, especially given the workforce challenges that companies are having today. It's really important that we retain the employees that are here, because we know it takes quite an effort to get new employees to join the organization in the climate we're in today. I did want to introduce a new employee who I failed to introduce last month, and that is Matt Ellis, who's here. Matt is our Director of Technology and Innovation. He comes to us from Tech Pro Power Group, where he was the Director of IT there. And prior to that, he was the Chief Technology Officer at Sentinel Power Systems. He has a degree in electrical engineering from TU and is working on his MBA. But we told him, you don't have to worry about electrical stuff just yet. We might plug into that, but he has just jumped in and stepped into systems that I feel will be important for him to share his expertise in leading our technology team, really engaging them and determining what priorities we can do in-house, and then how we might be able to leverage some outside resources to help us with our mission. So his intent right now is to focus on the work we're doing here today, get that perfected, and then really transition to the innovation side and looking at how we can really grow the technology to support the future. So glad to have Matt here with us. On June 22nd, we hosted our annual volunteer appreciation lunch. We have 154 volunteers. They work out here 365 days a year. And what we do is we celebrate them reaching 5-year milestones. So this year we had 12 volunteers reach their first 5-year milestone. Okay. Once they reach that, then they are an honorary ambassador. And what that means is if they should retire from their retirement volunteer job, then they can come back. And so at the luncheon, we had several volunteers that had officially retired maybe a decade ago that came back and engaged with us. Dorothy Maloney was one of them. So it was nice to see her. We had 5 recognized for their 10-year milestone, 2 for 15 years, and 1 volunteer, David Dunning, was recognized for 25 years of volunteer service to the airport. Just very impressive. We continue to see strong passenger activity. And that's probably the most frequently asked question that I get is, have we returned to normal operations? Fabio is going to present the May numbers, but June was also strong. We think we're about even with June numbers, and we know the 4th of July holiday for that 5-day period, we actually exceeded 2019 numbers. So the work we're doing to bring air service in, bring in additional seats is important. And despite the challenges we have with the economy, it's great to see that those passenger numbers continue to remain strong. With that being said, it also presents some challenges. Our parking lots have filled up, as many of you have noticed when you're traveling. So on July 1st, we asked the rental car companies to return to us the flex spaces that they have on the 2nd level of the garage. So that gave us 112 additional parking spaces for our customers. That's just temporary. We'll give them back to them after Labor Day. but it is something that we need to be thinking about going forward. If our garage is, you know, our highest net revenue, the shuttle operation has expenses associated with the drivers and the buses, but the parking garage is a pretty important asset for us. So how can we maximize the revenue of that asset? The other thing I hear a lot about from our customers and that our customer experience team hears about are the concessions at the airport. So the food, beverage, and retail operations, if they're flying out and they're not open, then we hear about it.
Yeah.
And so customer experience, real estate, our police officers even all are helping us. Number one, make sure our concessionaires are open the hours that they're contractually required to be open. We want to be mindful of the fact that they have their own employment challenges, but at the same time, our customers don't blame the concessionaire for not being open, they blame us.
Right.
And so we are continuing to meet with them and have conversations about what is the best solution so that we can always provide something from 3:45 a.m. when the checkpoint opens until the last departure leaves, which is around, it varies by day, but it's around 8:30, 9 o'clock on most days of the week. I did want to hit on, you know, I always say I'm going to talk about the tower. This past week, we received word from the FAA that we were not successful in our grant application for the airport terminal program. I had heard that that was going to be the case because they did not fund projects for design. They were only funding projects for construction. They did award 2 construction grants one to Peoria Airport and one to Asheville. For $15 million apiece. Both of those towers are already in the construction phase. And so they were further along in the process than we are. But we continue to plan to request funding as part of the next notice of funding opportunity for construction, which will come out for fiscal year 23, sometime in September, they said. And so that's our plan. I don't know exactly how much we're going to request. That will be something that will determine once we know further if the state's going to support the tower funding request. And then, you know, we're working some parallel pathways with the federal budget to try to get a allocation as part of the federal budget package. So although it's disappointing that we weren't included, I think we're still on a good pathway to be able to get some support. The FAA has even told us that they think it'll compete well for construction dollars next fiscal year. I mentioned earlier before we started, Frank is going to give an update on our first public meeting for the Riverside Master Plan. It went well, I think. And then Fabio is going to share some really positive news regarding our rating increase in just a bit. And with that, I'll turn it over to Fabio.
So one real question on the plans on the tower.
Yes.
What's the schedule on that as to when they're going to be completed, or we're
engineering
actually
work?
in the construction?
So today on your agenda, you have an item to approve. I think it's up to $750,000 approximately to sign a reimbursable agreement with the FAA so that they can review our engineer's drawings of the tower.
Okay.
That has been our stumbling block with moving forward in the design process. They've done everything they can up until this point. Now we need FAA to get on board.
Okay.
And so our timeline was to have design complete by the end of Q1 of 23. So we could go out to bid in Q2 of 23 and start construction in Q3. That's a pretty aggressive timeline.
Very aggressive, yes.
But I'd rather be aggressive. And then have the FAA kind of pull back. You know, the FAA sent us their timeline, and their timeline was like 2029 before it was complete. Well, that's not acceptable for us. We need to have our funds expended by 2026. So.
Okay.
So if you get the review for $750 from the FAA, that gets done by in time for the grant application in September, I'm wondering, or
No.
Next September.
next September.
That what they will be doing will be reviewing our consultants' plans and specifications to make sure that it meets all their requirements. And we can't go any further until they start reviewing, because we don't want to stop our consultant back up, expend more money to comply with what they review whenever they review it.
Gotcha.
But the notice of funding opportunity will come out this September for fiscal year 23. As
Okay.
long as we have plans to go out for bid before the end of the federal fiscal year, then we can apply for grant funds for fiscal year 23. Yes.
Okay.
And just to be clear, we have to pay them for them reviewing our plans.
Oh, yeah, we do.
But it's reimbursable, like you said.
We're
No,
reimbursing
reimbursing
them.
them.
So we're, and Frank can provide some
Unfunded
perspective.
mandate.
That is like, wow.
Well, and you guys know, and so, you know, we have our engineer's estimate for the total cost of construction of the tower at 67 million.
67 million.
The FAA came and said, our portion, we need you to sign a reimbursable agreement for 27 million so that we can participate. And we, Frank, in particular was like, no, hold on, this isn't our understanding of how we're going to proceed. So what they did is they broke it off and we decided just to move forward with the engineering services piece of it. We're strongly pushing back on the FAA regarding that initial request for the full 27 million. We don't feel like we should have to pay for their equipment, which is 12 million of that. But we're working through some of that today. But it's a steep ask. I think the good news is the FAA has a history of overinflating their project costs, and we only pay actual costs. And so Frank will share some of that when we get to that agenda item.
Okay.
Well, as Alexis alluded to, we did get some good news this past week from S&P Global. However, back in October of 21, when we were restructuring debt service for about $58 million with the 21A and B bonds, we did receive an increase in our rating. We were one of two airports that did so. That speaks volumes for our activity, our financial management, and the due diligence that we do every day in operating the airport. Over the past few months, myself, my team, Burdetta and Kevin, along with Mike Newman, have provided information to S&P Global. They will request information periodically throughout the year. We provide it to them, and it's basically a ratings review. Based on the information and the details that we've provided them behind the numbers, they've awarded us an increase in our rating from A negative positive outlook to A stable outlook, which is a huge win for the airport. It's not easy getting a rating increase in good times. It's certainly not easy getting a rating increase when COVID is a factor. And today, with the economic uncertainties of the stock market, supply chain issues, demand issues, and BlackRock reporting to Bloomberg that this is one of the worst years for bonds in 3 decades, getting a rating increase is quite an accomplishment. So we're very pleased and happy to report to the board that we are rowing as hard as we can in the right direction.
Good.
Here.
No, great job.
So with that, I'm going to report to you on the May numbers. May, as Alexis said, was a very strong month for the airport. We've had several weeks where we did have sellouts in our garage product, and we have put folks to the economy lot and valet reached capacity fairly quickly as well. So with that, we've seen a 3% increase over May of 19, which was a strong month for fiscal year 19 as well. But we're still 2% behind in the actuals. That's only about $883,000. And we've had a really strong June. So we're very positive on that. We're seeing numbers that will reflect our budget projections as we reported over the last 2 months of about a $42 million revenue budget for the year. Our expenses slightly up, not by a tremendous amount. Again, the supply chain demands and inflation have really been the drivers there. We've ordered a lot of product and it seemed to kind of all hit at once in March, which is not a bad thing, but it does put us behind schedule on a few things. Our net operating income before depreciation, we're up for the monthly comparative, but still down about 8%, which is about $1.5 million from where we were in fiscal 19. Food and beverage is still struggling at a 20% decrease from fiscal year 19, 9% in the month of May. But retail has really hit the ground running. and done exceedingly well, 17% ahead of where it was in 19, and it continues to outperform previous months' comparatives. Our parking activity ticket pulls were down 9% for the fiscal year to date comparative. We are up for the monthly comparative of May as far as revenues go, 3% increase, but we're still slightly below where we were in fiscal year 19, and that's about a $700,000 decrease. Ground transportation, really got to look at the month-to-month comparative. We did have rate increases that were effective, that were not taken into account in fiscal year 19. These increases really took place in January of 19, so it's half the fiscal year. So the monthly comparative really paints the picture of where we are with ground transportation. The Ubers, the Lyfts, the shuttle activity, they haven't really recovered pre-pandemic as they were going strong in other months. But the dollar increase is the real driver on that 20% increase. Transaction days for rental cars, while there isn't as much of a rental car shortage as there was earlier in the fiscal year, there still is, and our numbers reflect that with a 28% and a 14% down in the monthly comparatives. RVS, I mean, it's been doing gangbusters for a while now. Our operations 16% ahead of where it was in fiscal 19, 14 for the month of May. We did have a lot of the PGA aircraft utilize RVS this year, and that attributes to the monthly increase of 14%, as well as the fuel flows of 49 and 19% increase. Our passenger activity, slightly below where we were last year, 13% down. We did get our numbers in for June. However, we're still verifying those numbers. One of our airlines was reporting, and we're not 100% confident that our numbers for the plane passengers are accurate. We're just waiting on them to finalize. So we're slightly below where we ended last fiscal year. But it's important to note our projections for our budget, both 22 and our forecasted for 23, we've exceeded both of those projections.
And Fabio, that's fiscal year 19.
Fiscal year 19, yes. And then our in-plane cargo down 9%. Again, supply chain issues really being the driver there as far as why we're so behind from where we were in 19. The next graph really outlines our revenue performance, the red line being fiscal year 22 and 19 being the green line. And as you can see, we've started to trend in March really and mirror that performance. We've kind of intersected that line throughout the fiscal year of 19, but really March is where we hit our stride full force with the momentum we gained from spring break. And our expenses, again, really mirroring 19 and part of 20 before the pandemic hit full force. We do see the spike in March. Again, that's when we saw a lot of our delayed materials come in, but we're kind of tracking a little higher than we were last 19 fiscal year. But again, we've increased our payroll through performance-based increases, as well as cost of material and labor. And we'll get into the details of that shortly. Looking at our plane passenger trend, this is only through May, but as you can see, we've hit a pretty solid recovery. We're mirroring our numbers for this calendar year 18 and 19 fairly closely. It's only a matter of time until we start gaining the momentum and exceeding fiscal year 19, calendar year 19 in plane passenger. And then we have our budget to actual, and this is really where the numbers start to really show our performance. We're 20% ahead of where we anticipated to be budget-wise for fiscal year 22. When we developed that budget, there were so many uncertainties with Delta variants. Will there be a recovery? Will people feel comfortable traveling? And the answer is yes. We've really exceeded our expectations. Our passenger carrier activities up $1.3 million. Our parking revenue, which is our largest source of revenue, is up $3.2 million. So we're ahead of the game by about $6.3 million from where we anticipated we'd be this time in our fiscal year. And our expenses were still well below budget, 4%, it's about $800,000. Our payroll and benefits is below where we anticipated it to be. Our material and supplies, that's really the driver there that nets out any of our savings a little more so than they would be, and then our services below budget. This leaves a net gain for debt service and capital purchases of about $7 million greater than we anticipated it to be. So this alleviates our need for our cash to pay our debt service and kind of front load our capital purchase expenses. And looking at the fiscal year to date comparative between 19 and 2022 numbers, really the two areas that underperformed last year are or fiscal year 19, our air carrier and our miscellaneous revenues, which is made up primarily of our CFCs. This canceled out any gains that we had in the other categories of our terminal rents, our parking, and so on. About $800,000, 2% below where we were at that time in 19 to where we are today, 22. But our expenses slightly lower in our salaries and benefits, a little higher in our materials, and slightly lower in our services. We have a difference of about $1.5 million in our net from where we were this time in 19 to where we are today. And our final slide is our cash position. We've ended the fiscal year at about $21.2 million of unrestricted liquid cash. Our forecasted fiscal year end operating expenses and capital purchases, they just at about $25 million, giving us a days of cash on hand at the year end, forecast at about 310 days. This also shows that our debt service for the year is paid off. Now our debt service does decrease next year because of the restructuring, but we currently sit with about a little over a month's worth, 13 months worth of debt service in our coverage accounts. So very happy of how we ended the fiscal year. Any questions?
Questions? Great report. All right,
How comes the exciting stuff?
that's right.
Real quick, quick overview of where we're at on the RBS master plan. So far, we've conducted 3 oversight committee meetings, and we've conducted 1 public meeting. When the project is complete, we will do 5 total committee meetings and 3 public meetings. To date, we have completed the draft forecast and has been sent to the FAA for their review and approval. We've also performed the inventory and facility requirements. Basically, what that is doing is identifying what our needs are going to be in the future. We're currently working on the long-term solutions to accommodate what we have found. We are also reviewing and developing the environmental review of the airports. We're planning on, we're trying to schedule a working group for you and the airport along with the consultant. We're looking sometime between now and the August board meeting. Trying to get schedules worked out is a little difficult, as I'm sure you can understand. And we have another public meeting scheduled for September 1st. The first public meeting went pretty well. Everybody seemed to be open and explain some of their concerns. But all in all, I think it turned out to be a really good meeting. Very cooperative, what I saw. So, there's no questions regarding where we've come so far. You should be receiving an email shortly trying to schedule this working group meeting.
So how many people were at the public meeting?
I think around 40
Yeah.
altogether, and I think about 14 of those were TAIT employees, and the rest were members of the public.
Is it
So-
mostly tenants or is it neighbors of the airport?
There were a few tenants. There were, so the county, Commissioner Keith was there. The Parks Department manager, Vince Trinidad, was there. The Jinx Chamber, a Jinx City Councilor, INCOG was there. It was kind of a mix, but there were several tenants there as well. Our distribution list for the public notice was 275 people strong. So we invited the media. Channel 6 came out and did a story about it. Tulsa World did a story about it. you know, we have posted the materials from the meeting on our website, so people can go there, and if they saw the stories and want to learn more, they can go there and get information. You know, I think the big concern for the city of Jinx is the golf course.
Right.
And as it stands today, the existing runway, if nothing changes, there's still going to be impact to the golf course, but based on current FAA guidelines regarding use of that land. And so what that impact will be is yet, it will be determined going forward. But I think the big question that Frank was alluding to is we have to decide with the committee and public input from the public meetings. Ultimately, it's this board's decision as to what the future of that airport is going to look like. So that's why we want to have the work session with you, because we want to brief you all, and we feel it's important before we go to the public and say, here are the alternatives. We want to make sure that everybody on this board is bought in to those alternatives. And it really becomes a public discourse over which of these is the best solution for both the community, the airport, the tenants, all of the players that are involved. So that'll be coming up. I do think we found a date. We just haven't shared that with you guys yet, but we will today or tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. All right, administrative finance, IT contract action, or are there any other reports?
No more.
Frank, you got anything else? Number 3.
Okay. Accept bid and award contract for elevator and escalator inspection, repair, and maintenance services with Schindler Elevator Corporation, the lowest responsible bidder, in amount not to exceed $209,808 for 1 year, with 4 1-year renewal options, including a 5% price escalation effective August 11th, 2022. This contract will allow us to effectively maintain our equipment. Today, we've got about 31 elevators and escalators throughout our facility. And as we continually update and modernize those, when we modernize an elevator and escalator, we have a 1-year maintenance agreement. So this price will fluctuate down as we modernize. Do you have any questions about it?
There's a lot of moving parts.
There's a lot of moving,
Yeah.
literally, a lot of moving parts to this. And a lot of our elevators and escalators are Schindler equipment. And so they are the most responsible bidder for this contract.
So, for how long is this contract for?
It's for 1 year with 4 1-year renewals.
Yeah.
Is the 1-year renewal has to be mutual, or is it, they have the right to?
It's just
renew?
TAIT.
Yeah.
It's TAIT
Oh,
option.
All right. You know, with inflation the way it is, I mean, the 5%, you haven't seen that in a while.
Right. Right.
But I don't know how long inflation is going to be with us, but,
I would say, I mean, first off, there are performance requirements. They're
Right.
required to respond and get the units back up and running. And honestly, our biggest challenge with this equipment is the unstable power that we have. And these power fluctuations that come in almost on a daily basis interrupt the units. Sometimes they start back up. Most of the times they start back up, but occasionally they don't. And so they have a performance requirement to be here within a certain amount of time to make the repairs and get it back up and
we
running.
had more surges from BSO.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have they analyzed, we talked to them?
We are continuously talk with them.
Yeah, we're engaged with PSO now, and they communicate with us when there is a power surge, or if we experience one, we're reaching out to them, our electrician.
They
directly.
can be off. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody has those. I mean, that was kind of the whole tree trimming program and that sort of thing. I don't know whether they've kept up with that. I think they have, but yeah, you gotta have reliable. The surges just are awful on electric.
yeah.
Have we looked into ever at a backup system that can mitigate the surges?
Well, we have backup systems.
Well, if it goes down.
If
I
it goes
understand.
down. Paul, you want to talk about what
So there's a big focus right now on UPS system, backup systems, power supply units. Really, we've talked about it for the escalators and the elevators. There's some challenges there with that. I would back up Brian because he has some information on that. And then with our doors, so like anytime there's a power surge, it really impacts the airport because we've got to have our technology staff, we've got John back here, his team, they have to come in and reset a lot of the doors because we don't have them on UPS. So we do have generator backup power. We do have the ability to run this airport when there's no power. But some of the issues we're looking into is why do the generators not turn on when there's a flux of power? We've got 2 power feeds coming into the airport. And so both of those power feeds have to fail for that generator to kick on. So I've got Brian Williams, our electrician, looking into ways to improve that reliability. And Alexis alluded to it a second ago, but we also have our IT director, who is an electrical engineer who has a lot of experience with switchgear and that type of stuff. So, you know, eventually, once things in IT settle down, we'll probably rely on his experience too to help us increase the reliability here. Because we know PSO is going to continually have issues. It's
You're
not
going
going
to
to
get power
stop.
surges for the foreseeable future.
Right. And so,
my question is not, I know we covered for loss of power,
Right,
but there are systems
the
that
flywheel,
can equal out
Right.
the input we're getting to the feeds. And that's what I was asking about. Have we looked into that yet?
we are looking into it. So Alexis, the flywheel. So Hard Rock Casino out in Catoosa, they use a flywheel system. Flywheels used to be massive pieces of equipment. But now with technology, they've really considerably reduced the impact of size units. And so we're looking in the flywheel. It's a big investment. But you know, if there's a power surge out at Hard Rock with flywheel, there's no interruption to their service at all. You wouldn't even know it. And so that's where we want to be. It's just the process of getting there is going to take some time.
Good deal.
Move approval item 3.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Number 4.
Okay, approve and award professional services agreement with Summit Fire and Security LLC for fire system maintenance services for a term of 1 year with 4 one-year renewal options, including an annual 10% price escalation. Services are provided on a quoted hourly billable rate ranging from $128 per hour for normal business hours to $256 per hour for holidays and weekends. We received 1 proposal and management recommend approval for this. I want to note that there is no cost to TAIT until we have to call them out. So we've experienced issues in the past with in one case, this is before my time, but we've had issues with freezing of pipes and bursting of pipes with our fire suppression system, sprinkler systems. And we were the last in line for Summit. It was weeks. I think you said 2 or 3 weeks before we could get them out here. What this agreement does is holds them to a performance standard where they have to be out here within 2 hours. And so it elevates our priority to where we can get someone out here in the event, and also helps us keep in standards with regulatory requirements relating to the National Fire Protection Association.
Okay.
Requirements we have to maintain.
Couldn't get them below 10% on the pricing.
We could not with this, but with the 1 year term, it's certainly up for negotiation after a year.
move approval item 4.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Number 5.
Item 5 is enter into a reimbursable agreement with the FAA in amount not to exceed $750,000 for the design to relocate the air traffic control tower and base building here at TUL. This, excuse me, this is what we talked about earlier. This is for the FAA to be engaged to start reviewing plans and specifications so that we can push forward with the design. In the past, we've had 3 reimbursable agreements, 2 for the 18 right, 36 left runway safety area project, and 1 for the AFTIL. The design reimbursable agreement for 18 Wright was in the amount of roughly $100,000. That project, that portion of the project is complete, and the FAA has closed out that reimbursable agreement, and we've only spent just under $30,000. So we got back about 71% of the original contract cost. Same way with the construction management portion of it. The FAA had someone out there watching the project with the glide slope relocation. We had to reimburse them for that time. The contract was for roughly $335,000. Bill to date was $123,000. I really think that's probably going to be the last billing. We shouldn't have another billing cycle at the end, middle of next month, but that's 37% of the original contract time or contract cost. The AFTIL was roughly $500,000. Bill to date, and the AFTIL portion of the project is complete. Again, we don't have a final billing. Bill to date is a whopping $30,000. So we've only spent about 6% of that $500,000. The way the reimbursable agreement works, we come to an agreement. We have to send them a check in the total amount. They give us quarterly statements identifying how much they've used. And at the end of the project, they will give the money back, whatever's left. So with that said, item 5, the reimbursable agreement, management recommends approval.
It irritates the-
incentivized
it
by-
irritates the heck out of me to
Charles,
pay them
I'm
to
looking
do their
to be
job.
irate.
That's all I'm doing,
right
is
now.
really Charlie right now.
Okay.
So are they incentivized to do this or what? I mean, that's just crazy.
Trying to get them to do anything is extremely difficult unless you pay them extra, and that's what this is. The budget of the FAA is not what it used to be, and they're reaching out for additional funding to pay their people to do the work.
It's
And
not-
it's not just us. I mean, it's everywhere. This
No.
is SOP for them now.
That's what I was gonna say. It's a total operational shift that really began probably 5 years ago or so. Where our colleagues, even on some AIP projects in other states, are having to do RAs. We don't have to do that at this point for AIP projects, but it's extremely frustrating.
Okay. Move approval number 5.
Second.
You do it, yes.
I get it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Carry.
Item 6 is accept bid and approve award of contract, construction contract to realign and rehabilitate taxiway Alpha 4, Alpha 5, Kilo, and Lima to APAC Central Incorporated, contingent upon FAA grant funding in the amount of up to $3,311,000. This will be realigning the north 4 taxiways that lead to or connect to 18 Wright. Those taxiways currently are in bad condition or do not meet current FAA standards, and this will bring those into standards. We did receive only one bid, but that bid was 4.3% below the engineer's estimate. The DPE utilization goal for this project was 6.7%, and the contractor has committed to that 6.7%. Management would recommend approval of item 6.
I think APEC's done a good job for us in the past. They've approved item 6.
Okay. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item 7, accept selection and approve award of contract construction observation services to Olson Incorporated contingent upon FAA grant funding in the amount not to exceed $216,700. Again, this is for the realignment, rehabilitation of taxiway Alpha 4, Alpha 5, Kilo, and Lima. Basically, this is a construction observation contract. Contractor will go out there and do the work. The contractor will confirm that they are putting everything in as plans and specifications required. Management recommend approval of item 7.
Approval item 7.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Contract amendments.
Item 8, is reject bid for perimeter road perimeter road rehabilitation project. Airport staff will go ahead and repackage the set of plans and put them out to bid again later on this year. Management recommend approval of date.
Good approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No. Motion carries. There's contract amendment. All right. Number 9.
Item 9 is approved amendment number 2, professional services agreement, design services with Park Hill Smith and Cooper, perimeter road rehabilitation project, in the amount of $4,898. Last month, you approved amendment number 1 to repackage the plans and specifications. That was approved, but Park Hill Smith and Cooper realized they made an error in their math error. And they were short by just under the $5,000. Management recommended approval of item 9.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay. Change orders, none, change quantities.
I would like to withdraw item 10.
Okay. Number 11.
Item 11, I would like to take 11 and 12 together. That would be all right.
Yep.
Item 11 is approved change quantity number 1 with Megan Construction Incorporated in amount of negative $588. Item 12 is a accept project and approve final payment to Megan Construction Incorporated in the amount of $26,866.70. Both of these items are for the Tulsa Riverside Airport entrance project. The negative $588 for change of quantities basically bringing the quantities to actual used quantities. It's a negative 0.2% of project. Total project was underrun by the same 0.2%. Total cost of the project turned out to be $268,667. Management would recommend approval of item 11 and 12.
Move approval of 11 and 12.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Property leases. Number 13.
Okay, so number 13 will be to approve the sublease agreement with Stelco Partners DBA Verizon Wireless for 5 years with 2 5-year options and 1 2-year option to extend the term at a negotiated rate effective upon execution, with commencement date being the first day of the month after the lessee begins installation of the communications equipment at 36th and Mingo. If you see up on the screen here, you'll see the red star just to the northeast of the IDO building at 36th Street in Mingo. Verizon will be putting a new cell tower pending FAA approval in that location.
So is that a 5G?
It is
Any
not.
problems with
We require
5G
in
and
the
all that?
contract, in the contract, we will require that 5G will not be a 5G capable unless the FAA approves it.
Okay. Have a motion?
Move approval 13.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. 14.
Item number 14 is to approve the sublease agreement with Omni Air International Incorporated for 2 years with 2 1-year options to extend the term of the agreement effective August 1st, 2022 of the military room.
Move approval 14.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. 15.
Item number 15 is to approve the month-to-month cargo facility sublease agreement with Matheson Flight Extenders Incorporated effective August 1st, 2022 through October 31st, 2022 at the standard rate and contingent, however, upon payment of post-bankruptcy petition month-to-month rentals currently due and cargo building 2 TO contract.
Did we lose any money in the steel bankruptcy? Didn't
Approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
we?
Opposed, no. 18 is approved. 16 through 19 together.
16 through 18.
18.
16 would be to approve the assignment of sublease and acknowledgement and consent to assignment from William and Linda Reef to David Brickwood Figgins and Jennifer Brickwood Figgins as co-trustees of the amendment and restatement of the Brickman Figgins Family Trust agreement dated November 9th, 2010, herein Brickwood Figgins Trust, effective upon approval but no later than July 31st, 2022, Lot 1, Block 1G of the Northwest Hangar area at RBS Hangar 83. Number 17 is to approve the mutual termination and sublease of between TAIT and the Brickwood Figgins Trust effective July 31st, 2022. And then 18 would to be approved the new sublease agreement with the Brickwood Figgins Trust for 15 years with 2 5-year options to extend the term at the published rate effective August 1st, 2022.
Move approval of what he said. 16, 17, and 18.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Except we'd like them to say a little faster.
Yeah.
3 times.
5 times.
Yeah.
18.
Item number 19
19,
is to
sorry.
approve the sublease agreement and acknowledge it and consent to assignment from Wade and Ray LLC to Honey Badger LLC effective upon closing, but no later than July 31st, 2022, Lot 8, Block 13, Northeast Hangar Development, Hangar B 111 at RBS.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. 20.
20 is to approve the sublease agreement with Douglas Vincent for 15 years with 2 5-year options to extend the term at the published rate effective August 1st, 2022. This is Lot 12, Block 9, Northeast Hangar Development, Hangar B 52.
Approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
And item 21 is to rescind the approval of temporary sublease agreement with Christensen Aviation for the Cessna Convention aircraft parking that we approved last month, as they realized this convention is actually in 2023.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. That dates matter.
Turned out.
Yeah.
They were all off by 12 months.
I've done it, so.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? Have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There's no, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.